Hello guys, and welcome to this volkswizard video. Now some of you may recall that in early 2018 when the Up GTI was being launched, a YouTuber called Misha Cherudin made a video saying that you shouldn't bother buying the GTI, you should just buy a TSI 90 because they're basically the same car. Well, because he'd not actually driven the car or even seen it in the metal, he did get quite a few things wrong, and I felt the need to make a video putting him right, which I promptly did. But ever since that date, I've always wondered if the TSI 90 was maybe a budget alternative to the GTI, that it might have some of that magic, but for a saving of about £3,000. Well, through my business buying and selling these cars, I actually just happen to have an example of each right here. And I thought I'd put the record straight once and for all and see if the TSI 90 can actually hold a candle to the Up GTI. Now to do that, we can just have a walk around the two cars now, just check the spec and little differences, and then, most importantly, we can put them through their paces on my favourite British B road. So without any further ado, let's have a closer look around the Up GTI and the Up TSI 90. Okay, let's get started with the TSI 90. As you probably know, I've done the Up GTI to death in the past, but it's handy having it here for comparison because it's easy to see the differences when the two cars are side by side. Misha, take note. Right, let's have a quick recap on the TSI 90. So this came out in 2016. Until that point, I think for about the 5 years the Up was out, you could only get normally aspirated Ups, and they were a little bit gutless on the open road, perfectly fine around town, but the TSI engine with the turbo gave this car a new lease of life, and suddenly it was enjoyable to drive. So when a GTI model was suggested, well, everybody thought it's going to be brilliant because this was so good, and I don't think many people were disappointed. Now, some of the original reviews for the Up GTI said it had a unique front bumpers. Well, that's how unique they are. The only difference is this is in black and this is on the TSI 90 in body colour. You get cornering lights, stroke fog lights on the Up GTI standard, but I'm pretty sure you can spec them on a TSI anyway. But this is the important bit, so all this bit is unique to the TSI models. Same goes for the back. Actually, it's an identical rear bumper, that's how unique it is. So we've got parking sensors as an option on this one. But if you look at the balance and the way the number plate aperture is, it's identical to that car. Have a look at the exhaust as well. Okay, so yeah, it's identical. It's even got a visible exhaust pipe, which I think is unique to the TSI. It's not a chromy one like on the GTI, but it's still visible, and that denotes it's a TSI. There is a little spoiler here, but it's part of the metalwork. It hasn't got a plastic bit tagged onto it like the GTI. This is a Beats model, so this was a special edition, cost about £11,000 as opposed to 14 for the equivalent GTI. And you get sound system, but you're actually missing quite a bit of standard equipment as well. So, I mean, well, let's start with the wheels. These are 15-inch, and they've got 185/55 15 tyres. Well, that's exactly the same size as the BBS wheels on the Mark II Golf GTI. I can't really believe that, but look at all that sidewall, what we get used to now. It's amazing. We've got smaller brake discs, these are 256. There is quite a lot of sidewall on the tyre though to protect the wheels, so that's kind of handy for a town car, because I always felt the Up GTI ones were very, very prone to curbing. Luckily I got away with it on my car. Yes, well, Beats is a slightly camp limited edition, I think. So you get these slightly dodgy mirrors, slightly dodgy centre caps, very dodgy stripes, not so dodgy badges. Inside, yeah, there's a lot of beige, but it's quite an uplifting place. You know, we've got a lot of interesting things in here that just don't look like a cheap plasticky city car. So we've got this, which always reminds me of the Japanese flag, I think. We've got different colours, we've got really nice fabric on the seats. So they're actually 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of fabric on that seat. So that's quite an expensive thing to put together. And it's got red stitching, and it's got Alcantara on the headrest. In comparison, I'd say the Up GTI tartan seats are a lot cheaper to make than these. We don't get the Up GTI's heated seats as standard because they are a GTI thing. So you can no doubt spec them, but you don't get them. You get this very normal Golf steering wheel, which is quite pleasant, and the colour coding is actually really nice. Much more interesting than the plain black, really boring style you get on your common or garden Golf. There are some other things missing. Let's have a think. So, well, we're missing a gear on the gearbox because it's only a 5-speed box, but we'll come to that later. This is a 2018 model year car, so you still get the lever on the handbrake there. So that's been deleted from the 2019, well, not 2019 model year, but some point in the last few months of production, they've gone to like a horrible plastic, just a continuation of that really, on the handbrake, which just shows the accountants have been sharpening their pencils. Excuse me. Oh yeah, what else we don't have is a trip computer, got the key in the car. So we've got like a real old sort of ZX81 type display there, which is a couple of grades down on the one in the GTI. We've got no button on the end of the stalk for the trip computer. That's a real shame really. Do we have fuel range? I'm not sure actually. Let's have a look. So we've got mileage, and we've got the ambient temperature, and we've got a warning for low fuel, but that's pretty standard. No, that's a shame. No fuel range. Disappointing. We've got the phone holder here, which you can remove if you don't like it, but I find it quite useful. I think it looks like the same sort of stereo as the Up GTI. That's it really. What else? Not much else to say. It's all pretty well put together. Plastic quality is reasonable. There's nothing to say beats in here. The speaker pods are just the same. It's just got that in there really. Yeah, but you know, it's an interesting thing to be in. It reminds me of probably what a Fiat 500 is like. Not that I've ever been in one. You don't get the red stripe of the GTI, you just get the silver one. It's got the same 2-level boots. It's got one thing I don't know if they do tell you, but I bet they don't, is that if you order Beats, you get the toolkit that flops around in the boot and thumps every so often, giving you the fright of your life. It's like you've driven over a boulder, because underneath the carpet you have a spare wheel well full of subwoofer, and therefore the tools have to float around in that bag, which I'm telling you, I wouldn't bother with Beats because of that. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a great looking car, the Up, but because it's got the smaller wheels that sit in the arches more and it's a bit higher riding, it just doesn't have that lovely, I mean, it's the same body panels as the GTI, but it doesn't look like it's flared arch. This looks just right, you know, catch it at the right angle and it looks like a Lupo GTI with its wide arches. Primarily because it sits a bit lower and the wheels are wider, and that width will probably be on the outside. So yeah, it looks pretty good. But the TSI 90 is, I don't know, a little bit cheaper. It's still got disc, obviously drums on the back, probably identical to those on the GTI. Yeah, I mean, there are other models. You don't have to have a Beats model, but this was a special edition and I think it was particularly good value. So yeah, I've worked out it's 80% of the price, 80% of the torque, and 80% of the horsepower. So there we go. Right, a quick reminder of the GTI. Yep, there you go. Actually, we like to talk about options, don't we? So this car has got one option I haven't experienced before, but I still need to start wearing glasses to kind of benefit from it. So let me show you. Ta-da! The most minuscule rear view camera in the world. The bonsai rear view camera of the Up GTI. That is pretty useless. Yeah, I wouldn't pay extra for that. Parking sensors, yes. Rear view camera, no. And what did he not order on this car that he should have ordered? A black roof, yeah. Unfortunately, this one's just tungsten silver all over. Great colour, but still would benefit from a black roof. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet. Okay, well, not a lot to see here really, but the only reason I'm showing you this is because these two engines look pretty much bang on similar. There's just nothing to distinguish between them. The only difference is on that sticker there, that's a DKR engine code, that's standard GTI one since day one. And this one is a CHZ, it just says it on there. So I still haven't really, I haven't done much homework in this because I'm not really that bothered, but I haven't confirmed what hardware differences there are, if there are any at all. I think Misha said it was a software change that gave this 115 horsepower as opposed to that one's 90, but that's really unusual. With the A2, they went from 75 horsepower diesel to 90 horsepower diesel, and there were quite a lot of changes with that car. Okay, they're probably much more restricted on budget with this one, but it's not VW style to just remap a car and call it more powerful. They tend to change the turbo, intercooler, injectors, fuel pump, internals of the engine. Who knows? I'm sure if you've got the Volkswagen parts index ECA, you could work it all out. So if you know, please comment below. Anyway, enough talking about these cars. Let's go and drive them and see if the TSI 90 really is the budget GTI. Okay, well, as you probably worked out, I have started with the Up GTI, the proper GTI, and on a B road like this that never goes in a straight line for very long, this is a very proper GTI because there aren't many cars that can keep up with it. Now, I haven't driven one for about 4 weeks since I did the Polo GTI versus Up GTI video, so I've kind of forgotten how much I like it. There are three things you notice straight away. One is the firmness of the ride. Two is the noise from the fake sound generator, which compared to the TSI 90 dominates the audio in here. The TSI 90 is pretty silent in comparison. And the other thing is the abundance of torque from this engine. It's remarkable, and that's what really makes you smile so much when you drive it. It's incredible. Now let's just drive it a little bit faster and see if we can smile a bit more. So into third for this corner, let's see how the tyres hold on today. Bloody hell, that was brilliant. 15.5 degrees might explain why the Goodyears are working all right. Let's just be careful with these cyclists. Yeah, lovely. Back into fourth, which you can pretty much stay in on this road in its entirety, but we'll pop it into fifth, give the engine a bit of a break. So yeah, the ride, it never really rests, and when you're doing 60 on a road like this, it does feel like you're doing 100, but that's probably no bad thing because you get the sensation of speed and the thrill of driving without having to break the law. And the chassis is so good, considering the cheap ingredients used is a very impressive dish. And even on this tricky off-camber corner with the mother of all telegraph poles on the exit ready to split you in half, it doesn't feel scary. It feels exciting, but not scary. It's blimey, I've got the hairs standing up on the back of my neck. Can the TSI 90 recreate that feeling? Well, there's only one way to find out. Okay guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Up TSI 90, and it does feel really familiar. It doesn't feel that different to an Up GTI driving it sedately. It's a little bit quieter, which is weird because the Up GTI doesn't exactly seem like a loud car, but the fake sound generator does dominate the interior noise in that car, and without it this car feels at least as refined as a Golf. Let's just turn around and drive a bit more spiritedly and see if we can find any significant difference. So we're in second gear now. It's a bit slower to pick up, a bit more lag. Try and get into third for this gear corner. And it felt a little bit more on a ragged edge just then. We did that corner in third in the GTI, it felt great. Now we've only got a 5-speed box, but from what I can work out, the gearing doesn't seem massively different. I can't work out whether it's longer gearing holding this car back or just the lack of power and torque. It's got 90 horsepower versus 115 of the GTI. It's got 160 Newton meters of torque versus 200 of the GTI, so it's got 80% of it, which isn't massively different. It doesn't have that sort of smile-inducing pull of the GTI, but it's not bad. Not bad at all. I'd say the bigger difference is the chassis, which feels very, very loose compared to that in the GTI, and that's not perfect. So this car, even though it's roughly the same weight as the GTI, it feels like a heavier car that's rolling around more on its bump stops. And I think that's where the GTI magic lies, in that it's a relatively well set up car in a lot of areas, and it does pick up a lot better than this. If I drop this down to fourth now at 30, put my foot down, we're getting there, but I am not smiling. The gearing could have a part in that. I don't know what the ratios are, but definitely second feels roughly the same as in the GTI, because 60 is at the top end of it. Was Misha right? Well, no, I think the Up GTI is brilliant. Out of the box, it's a great fun car with a lot of character, and it does make you smile. The TSI 90 is about £3 cheaper, which isn't to be sniffed at, but it's still not a GTI. If you want a GTI and you don't want to modify your car, then it's well worth paying that kind of money. If you want to take this basic car and turn it into a track car like Misha did, then sure, yeah, buy a TSI 90, save yourself £3 and put that towards the modifications. But let's face it, that's not what people do. People really don't want to modify their cars by and large, and if they do, they don't want to turn them into a track car. They still want to use them on the road. And if you're going to do that, the GTI is definitely the one to go for. Okay guys, well I hope you've enjoyed this volkswizard video comparing the Up TSI 90 with the Up GTI. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, please comment, please share, please subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video very soon.